Get you some egos. We're talking Stranger Things. This is a review for Stranger Things 2, Chapter 1, Mad Max. So before we begin, let's just have a quick review of what Stranger Things is. It's this show on Netflix, and it's about all these strange things that happen in this small little town in Indiana in 1984. It's got a lot of conspiracy elements. It's got a lot of sci-fi stuff with like this one little girl called 11 who's got telekinesis powers, and there's like a dark dimension that she can tap into, and there's this alien that comes out from it that starts eating people called the Degamore. Like I said, a lot of people like was the 80s nostalgia. I, for one, that isn't what hooked me last year. Like I said, I liked all the whole conspiracy stuff and the sci-fi deal. The 80s, even though, I'm old enough, I, of course, was born in the 80s. I don't really remember a lot about the early 80s because, long story short, I spent most of my time in the wilderness, I was raised by river otters. Anyway, we're talking Stranger Things. So this is the first episode of Season 2. And I think they had a pretty good start. They had an episode that just kind of recapped everything that happened last season. And they showed you where the characters from last season are now, a year later. And they introduced some new characters. And they hooked you in with a few interesting bits. So I, of course, took some notes. And I'll just give them to you. Okay, so the Byers family, that was the one that had the kid disappear who ended up in the dark dimension, what they call the Upside Down. We see Joyce, the mother, who I'm thinking she kicked the smoking habit. I didn't see her smoking a lot. She did a lot last season. Anyway, she's dating this guy played by Sean Astin from Encino Man, who's kind of a nerdy guy called Brian the Brain. And I gotta say, I think Sean Astin based this character off of Patton Oswalt, because that's who I thought was playing him at first, Patton Oswalt, but it's Sean Astin, of course, star of Encino Man. Will, that's the one who disappeared in the Upside Down. He's having flashbacks of the Upside Down, like he's just hanging out with his buddies in the arcade, he starts hearing some noise. Next thing you know, the world's changing around him. He starts, freaking out, thinking he's back in the Upside Down. Of course, the Upside Down is just like a parallel universe where everything is dark, like there's no sun, and everything's overgrown with like trees, and everything's like black and it smokes, or maybe it's snow was always falling out of the air. Here's my question about the Upside Down. I had this last season, and I'm probably gonna have it this season, depending on how much time they spent in the Upside Down. Who the hell's doing all the construction in the Upside Down? Because the only people we ever see in the Upside Down, aside from the ones who got sucked in from our dimension, are, a bunch of slugs and the Demogorgon guacan creature, right? Who the hell's doing the construction? They got houses and libraries. They all look like, the Hawkins in the real world. It's like, who's doing the construction? That's all I'm asking. All right? Like I said, he's having these episodes, so they have to take him back to the facility, which was no good in season 1, to run some tests on them, ask some questions, because that place is still up and running somehow. And I guess, I don't remember this from season 1. Did they strike some kind of deal with the research facility that they're going to keep everything quiet, but they're going to take care of this kid? What's the deal with that? And of course, they got Paul Reisner running the place. And he's talking to Will, talking, just some shit. He's like, hey, so Halloween's coming up. What's your favorite candy bar? You can only pick one. The kid's like Reese's Pieces. And he goes, I'm a Mounds man. It was like, one thing I do remember from the 1980s, of course, was Three Musketeers. How come that's no one's favorite candy? It was mine, okay? Aside from, Anyway, Jonathan, that's the older brother. He ain't doing much. He's just trying to take care of his little brother and make him feel good because Will feels like everyone's treating him like he's a freak. And he's like, no, it's okay to be a freak. Who would you rather be? David Bowie or Kenny Rogers, right? And the little kid's like, yeah, Bowie, of course. I'm like, whoa, that's what the Kenny Rogers hate here. Kenny Rogers is a fucking gambler, little kid. I mean, I got nothing against David Bowie. He was awesome, Ziggy Stardust and whatnot. But He's not Kenny Rogers. Kenny Rogers is the fucking gambler. I mean, what's this Kenny Rogers hate? And you nip that shit in the bud. Okay, so the other main family is the Weaver family. We have the one brother who was, trying to find Will last season, and, he was dealing with 11, the little kid with the psycho powers. He's acting up, apparently, because he's not over the fact that, 11 disappeared, and his parents are on his ass and telling him he's got to get rid of all of his toys as punishment for, stealing money from his sister's piggy bank. When I saw that scene, I was pretty pissed, too. It's like, that shit wouldn't, that wouldn't go too far in the burrows, stealing from your siblings. Then again, I don't recall my Otter family being big on money, or any of the Otters for that matter. Money is not a factor when you're living with Otters. But anyway, like I said, that's a douche move right there. Anyway, that's his story so far, is he's missing 11. His sister Nancy, she's still dating John Raffaello's dad. And like I said, there was a cover-up. So Barb's parents, her best friend who died, and Nancy blames herself, they're trying to find their daughter, so they hired a private eye, and of course this means they have to sell their house, and Nancy knows the truth, so she's got a lot of guilt about that. Okay, and I guess the mother, she's not that important, but she's concerned about her son. The father, though, what the fuck? That guy, he's like the same kind of clueless beat from last season, where he just doesn't get stuff. Okay, last we have Hooper. He's basically keeping everything a secret, checking in with the buyers and Joyce, and he's basically has 11 hidden out in his cabin. 11, the psychokinesis the kid with all the superpowers. She's hanging out in his cabin. He's keeping that secret, raising her as his daughter, I guess. Of course, we also have Dustin and Lucas. Those are the two friends of Will and Mike. From last season, they actually got a storyline this time around where they're both pining after the same girl, this little redhead called Max, who can beat them at arcade games. She doesn't know that that's why they're interested in her, because of the arcade games. She just thinks they're creeps, but they're both kind of pining after her because she can kick their ass in arcade games, take the high score. According to Keith, my new favorite character, I'm not entirely sure, I haven't checked IMDb, but the guy who runs the arcade guy who's giving little kids shit and eating Cheetos and whatnot, is that Napoleon Dynamite? Because it looks a lot like Napoleon Dynamite, and he acts like Napoleon Dynamite. So is this, being played by the same character who played Napoleon Dynamite? I want to know. Aside from that, like I said, they just recap where everyone is. You set up a few new characters like this Private Eye, who's, like I said, he was hired by Barb's family to find her, and he's thinking all sorts of crazy shit happened last year. He's not too off. He thinks it's Russians. No, it was actually the U.S. government. He thinks it's aliens. It was like extra dimensional beings or whatnot. So he'd be an interesting character. And at the beginning, cold opening, they had I guess they were street urchins or some damn thing, running around, committing crimes, getting chased by the police. And they're trying to lose them as they're coming to this tunnel. One of them starts using her mind powers, and you think the tunnel collapses, but it was all an illusion just to freak out the cops so they crash. And, when the chick's doing the mind thing, her nose starts bleeding like 11. You can see a little tattoo. It says 08, so it's another test subject from the secret government lab. That'll be interesting. Like I said, it was a very simple episode to start off the season. I liked it. I'm making theories in my head right now. I know that some of you, seeing how they put out every episode, already know what's going to happen. No spoilers in the comment section. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Speaking, one thing I forgot about Dustin and Lucas. Like I said, they're trying to impress this girl. At least they're planning to, because they haven't formally introduced themselves. Dustin, that's the one character who had the teeth last year, the baby teeth. He's got a new set of pearly whites, as he said, and he thinks he can impress her with the teeth. This keeps going, like that. And let me tell you something, kid. If someone grew up with winter routers, where, when the mating season started, and, if you wanted to get a mate, you try to, bite her on the nose, or show off your teeth, and then had transitioned into the human world. Biting, showing your teeth to girls, that just doesn't work. Like I said, it works down at the burrows. Doesn't work in the human world. Never worked for me. Well, I was that one girl in Poughkeepsie.